Today, we're ranking the rookie running backs into tiers for 2025 Dynasty Rookie Draft, so you can get those player values, get some advanced analytics, and my thoughts and feelings on these players. Before we dig in, though, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're ranking these rookies every week. We're looking at their prospect profiles. We're looking at the values. We're looking at mock drafts and everything else to help you stay in tuned for your Dynasty Rookie drafts, your Dynasty leagues, and anything else that'll help you build your team. Click that button. Stop missing out. But we're starting off looking at the tier list. They're blurred out. You might be able to guess a few, but you ain't going to guess all of them. But we got to talk about S tier. S tier is very easy right now, but it might change come draft time because honestly, we got some dogs in A tier, and the running backs here are jumping the market, and that might change. That is a question that we got to think about as we approach draft day. Right now, S tier is pretty simple. It's pretty simple because we're looking at Ashton Jeanty here as the top guy. Everybody's got him in S tier. 2,600 yards. Going to be a first round easy. Should be the first running back off the board, but might not be. Might not be. This is a jacked running back class. We saw that at the combine. And we might see a couple of these backs go in the first round. We might see that. The mock draft simulators have to catch up to that. That's one thing. We might see 3 or more running backs get drafted in the first round. I would not be surprised. Especially when you get in the back end of that first round. Things get a little bit iffy with some of the position groups. And it's a little bit deeper in the second round to where like you could wait a little bit. But you do have a tier on the top end of these running backs for these teams. Ashton Jeanty. We know it. Contact balance, good vision, good on tape. Everybody's waiting for him to come out. We got that Dynasty market sentiment. He is an S tier player. He is for everybody. And you got to take that value too. Did not test at the combine. That didn't hurt him, but allowed the competition to like, hey, look at me. Look at me. We got some assets here. We're first round picks too. That's something to look at. Not going to affect him, but he might have some competition in S tier as we're moving forward. But we're going down to A tier. Looking at that real quick. Omarion Hampton, Kaleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, Hendo. When we look at Omarion Hampton, though, back-to-back 15-plus 100-yard seasons, 30 touchdowns in the last 2 years, 4.35 yards after contact per attempt. Omarion Hampton's that dude, and he killed it at the combine. Elite burst score, elite speed score, top-tier guy. Going into the 2025 NFL Draft, he's probably getting drafted in the first round. I just don't see him not getting selected in the first round. I don't see him falling into the second. And I definitely could see or make a case where he gets drafted higher than expected too. This is an immense talent. You can really give him carry after carry, touch after touch, and road dog him. Kaleb Johnson, I do see him not getting selected in the first round. I do see him going on day 2, somewhere around there. But he's a guy that can carry a heavy workload. A heavy workload. The 40-yard dash, anticlimactic, but the speed score is good. It's good enough to get the job done. Good enough for him to be competitive at the NFL level. We got some work in as a freshman, 779 yards. Was the offense back then. 3.34 yards after contact per attempt. Was injured in 2023. The starter, when he was out, had to transfer out because they knew it was Kaleb Johnson's job. And then in 2024, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, put the stamp on things. That's when everybody started talking about him. You guys should have been talking about him back in 2022. That's when he was lighting things up as well. You guys should have looked at him as a recruit. You guys should have. But Kaleb Johnson, still a solid selection. We're just going to watch where he goes in the draft. Lower in the draft if he falls, or if he goes to a bad situation, we'll have to adjust. But right now, he can handle a heavy workload, has some upside. Quinshon Judkins is in this tier as well. Judkins should be moved ahead of Kaleb Johnson due to draft capital alone, especially if he gets drafted in the first round. He is getting drafted ahead of Johnson. They're in the same tier. That means I'm mixing them up. I'm watching them. They're valued very similar but different. You do what you want to do with that. But back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Productive. We were productive at Ole Miss. As a freshman, right out of the gates, we blew up. We were lower in our recruiting class, still blew up. Another year at Ole Miss with good production. And then we just go to Ohio State. We get that natty. And then we go to the NFL with a little extra tread on our tires. 3.04 yards after contact per attempt. Yards after contact per attempt was above 3 every year of his career. That's outstanding. That looks good. We got elite burst score, elite speed score. I think that put the scouts on notice and say, hey, we got ourselves an elite caliber running back here with elite upside. A few years ago, when people weren't talking about Ashton Jeanty, it was Quinshon Judkins. And he's saying, hey, I'm still Quinshon Judkins. Nothing happened. I can catch the ball out of the backfield. I have 59 catches on my career. I can do it all. Maybe I'm not a receiving weapon, but I can still catch the ball out of the backfield, handle those touches, and I can be the elite grinder, workhorse back that your team needs. TreVeyon Henderson, the different man of the bunch here. Like, you do not want him handling a full workload. He's got that DeAndre Swift vibe, plus a little bit more. Very electric, got elite burst score, good speed score as well. Pushing up there, 4.43, 40-yard dash. We knew this because back when he was a 5-star recruit, he was running in the 10s on the 100 meters. That was our time. That was our barometer. And then we saw it on the field. 1,200 yards as a freshman, broke out early. 1,000 yards to cap things off. And then on top of that, back end of the college football season, we had debates, Quinshon Judkins or TreVeyon Henderson. Debates. Like it was Rocky IV at the end of the movie, and the Russians started cheering for Rocky. They were cheering for TreVeyon Henderson. That's what we were looking at here. But he's going to get good draft capital. He's going to be used in the pass game, supposedly. Should be. If their team's smart that drafts him, they should be using him. But upside for days. But we're going to Tier B here. Tier B has Tier A caliber talent, and maybe caliber talent in any other year, pushing S tier. And we're looking at Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal, Cam Skattebo, DJ Giddens, Ollie Gordon, and Damien Martinez. We got some dogs here. Dylan Sampson, afterthought, he's been hurt, and you're not seeing much of him. That Ohio State game, he only got a handful of touches. But productive in the SEC, 22 touchdowns. Tennessee would have been more competitive against Ohio State if it was in that game. He was pretty much the team. He was pretty much the team. And that's what they showed you against Ohio State, because they were not the same Tennessee team without him. Looking at Devin Neal, did not do great at the combine. Some people are down on that, but the burst score is good. Size adjusted athleticism is okay. 4.58 40-yard dash is competitive at the NFL level. That being said, we grinded it out throughout our career. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Devy gamers were put on notice on him as a freshman. 49 touchdowns on his career rushing. Was able to get used in the passing game. And we got okay size at 213. Cam Skattebo didn't run, but I don't think he would have been that great on the 40. But the burst score is there. 1,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, 45 balls caught. We have production. It's on the tape. He's a grinder. He's an effort guy at contact. He gets low. He's also a little bit slippery as well. 4.09 yards after contact per attempt this year. And 102 missed tackles. Skattebo's got some game. DJ Giddens is the guy that's getting slept on too much. Put on notice with the combine. Elite speed score, burst score. But just about every running back in this class killed the combine. So he's still being slept on a little bit. Okay size. Back-to-back 1,000-yard season. 17 touchdowns last 2 years rushing. Can be used in the passing game. Whoever drafts him on their NFL team is going to get a very good running back with a lot of upside at a discount. Ollie Gordon. I dropped him 2 weeks ago from A tier to this tier because I feel like he might slip in the draft. I feel like he might fall a little bit. I think there's some questions. He's a big, physical grinder. That's what we're looking at. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. That can rack up fantasy points. Big running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield, that is something you do not want to sleep on. Not the fastest guy, not the most explosive, but still, catching the ball out of the backfield when you're 220 plus pounds, you're a big grinder, and you can also be wheeled out a little bit, not as a receiving threat, but as a guy catching some balls back there. That is something to look at. That's something to note. He might fall in the draft, though. I could see that potentially happening. We got the DUI, 880 yards this year. The combine, we did not run into 4.5s. We were hoping for that to happen after the Senior Bowl. If that happens, we might adjust a little bit. But still, Damien Martinez is a running back I'm highly interested, because we broke out as a freshman out of the gate at Oregon State, 982 yards, 7 touchdowns. Next year, we capped that off with another big year. Then we transfer to Miami. We kill it again. We can be used in the passing game. Ran a 4.5 140-yard dash. We can be competitive at the NFL level. We have good size to us at 217. PFF had him at 232 for some reason. But still, Damien Martinez is a guy that their NFL team's going to get at a good discount very severely. But the talent's there. The talent's definitely there. 4.46 yards after contact per attempt this year. Transferring from Oregon State to Miami. He's a dog. He's a dog. But we're moving on to C tier. C tier is kind of like a light A tier, mixed B tier compared to other years. And we're looking at Woody Marks, RJ Harvey, LeQuint Allen, Raheim Sanders, and our boy Tuten here. Toot. But Woody Marks transferred to USC, reeled off 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns after being a product at Mississippi State. 4.5 40-yard dash at 207. A little bit lighter in the pants there for that 40-yard dash time, but it's still fine as a speed score. Still competitive, so you can't really knock it on him. However, when you're in this class, it kind of like overshadows you a little bit. 3.04 yards after contact per attempt. He's one of those guys that's going to be a dog, that's going to be impactful for his NFL team that you got to watch for climbing the ranks. He's also racked up stats, catching balls out of the backfield. 60 in 2020, 83 in 2021, 48 in 2022, 47 with USC, 2 different programs as well. RJ Harvey's electric 4.4 40-yard dash at 205. Good speed score, good burst score. We're getting it done. And on top of that, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, finishing his career after having a good season in 2022. This is a guy that's going to have immense upside. He's explosive. He's going to get drafted in the middle rounds and could make an impact. Could make a big impact in Dynasty. LeQuint Allen, I'm high on him. I'm higher on him than a lot of those later round running backs because he's a certified grinder, certified technician. He's explosive for the size at 204. We see that a little bit with the burst score around 60th percentile there. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Catch the ball in the backfield, 64 receptions. For a middle to late round running back, that is something you want to keep an eye on. That is a guy that could carve out a role later on down the road that you want to have stashed on the back end of your roster. Raheim Sanders, he's a Devy guy. He's a Devy darling. Those Devy darlings who just kind of go missing, they kind of come back up later in the process when it comes to the draft. That is a player you want to at least pay attention to. He's good between the tackles. We got some size to him at 217, 4.46 40-yard dash, 3.69 yards after contact per attempt. Out South Carolina, a new school there, 881 yards there too. And this is a running back. Not going to be the greatest running back in the class, but could be that surprise player. Could be the Brock Purdy among the running backs who used to be a Devy darling. You didn't hear anything, then just comes back later. You might get that horseshoe effect with him. Toot, baby. 1,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, 25 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. 4.4 yards after contact per attempt. We run in the 4.3s. Electric. We're over 200 pounds with that speed as well. This is a guy that everybody wants, though. It's jacked up. And I get it. You see the tiers. You think the tiers are ranked. They're not. They're mixed in. It's a mixed bag. Really depending on values and how you're feeling. I think Tuten, I would draft ahead of Raheim Sanders pretty easily. Maybe ahead of some of the other guys in this tier. I kind of forgot their names. That's how my mind works. But toot, baby. We're rocking and rolling. But now it's tier D. And it ain't the double Ds. We got a single D here. It ain't that big D. But we're looking at Marcus Yarns, Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, Donovan Edwards, Breshard Smith. We got a newcomer. And another newcomer here with Jordan James. But Marcus Yarns, I really don't like the profile for an FCS back. I want my FCS backs to be so productive that you just stare at the numbers. We're not getting that here. We do have a 4.45 40-yard dash, but under 200 pounds. So I imagine he's going to slip in the draft. Late round pick, if not UDFA. Something to pay attention to. Good between the tackles, has some pop in the step. But I can say that about damn near every running back in this draft. So show me something. We're not electric in targets here. 82 targets in 4 years at the FCS level. Only 2,000 yards. 2,300. 4 seasons to get there. FCS level. I get different offenses. All this. Bada bing, bada boom. Still. That's what we're looking at here. Montrell Johnson. His tape's good. He's got good vision. He could be a surprise player 216 pounds listed, 212 at the combine. So we got some thickness here. 4.41, 40-yard dash, good speed score, burst score, aight. It's aight. But we're looking at a running back here that could gel in an offense that could surprise us because he is wicked between the tackles. He's wicked finding the lane. He's got good vision and patience. That is something that could allow him to climb a depth chart over time. Trevor Etienne. So this was a big-time darling through the recruiting process. Also, Etienne privilege due to his brother. Trevor Etienne, though, did not really fire at the college level. He was just okay. He was just okay. We go to Georgia. We got a little bit more tread on our tires. We averaged 5 yards per carry. It's okay. 3.43 yards after contact per attempt. That's good. That's good and all. Size adjusted athleticism. It's okay. It's okay. Nothing's really standing out with him. So we really need draft capital, situation, opportunity. We need that to gel for him to fire. Donovan Edwards ran okay at the combine. He did all right at the combine, but we're looking at a player here that did not hit to his 5-star status at Michigan. That is something to note, but he can rack up catches. He has a 30-catch season, so if he lands in the right spot with a quarterback that likes to check it down, this could be a sneaky guy here for your dynasty teams and redraft or whatever, but also Breshard Smith, even sneakier. 4.39 40-yard dash, good burst score, good speed score out of him at 194 pounds. But we're a former wide receiver, caught 39 balls last year at SMU after being an afterthought really at Miami. There's a lot of talent there, and they keep bringing in talent. I can definitely tell you that. But 3.34 yards after contact per attempt. Everybody was talking him up at the Senior Bowl, and with those receiving chops and 11.7% target share, that is something you want to note going into your dynasty drafts and pinpoint him as a late-round pick. Jordan James, productive in the back end of his career. On top of that, looking at him with a 4.55 40-yard dash, 3.18 yards after contact per attempt. This is his time to be the man because we knew he was back at Oregon last year with Bucky Irving. That being said, he was still able to get 7.1 yards per carry there. 5.4 this year, but that's more of a workload. We over doubled it. That being said, we're looking at Jordan James as kind of like a prospect you're thinking about in the back end of your drafts. Probably going to go day 3. More than likely, the speed score is very low. We're at 205, that's fine. Somebody might like him and pull the trigger. However, we need the right situation. We need that to matter. But we do have some upside to his game. If this was a different class, people would be talking about Jordan James a little bit more because he does have some good vision. He is steady. He's a very productive running back. But we're going to Tier E. Tier E. And Tier E is pretty much Tier D. I just don't have space in Tier D. That's the thing about it. But we're looking at a Lone Ranger here. Come on, a guy. Come on down. Good tape. Good tape. Good vision. Grinder between the tackles. 4.6 40-yard dash. 2.11. Coming from Rutgers. Might get lost in the shuffle. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. 13 touchdowns this year. 3.37 yards after contact per attempt. 38 catches over 5 years. 14 this year. As the between the tackles grinder. So we're not catching the ball much. We don't have a receiving profile. We don't have the burst or speed score to really nullify that either. To be explosive in space. That being said, we need to just get the opportunity. But the vision's there. We can compete at the speed score in this 40-yard dash time. We had, 4 running backs score in the top 10 in fantasy? Or 2 or 3 top 10 in fantasy with speed scores under 100. And I think 6 in the top 25 or 6 to 8. That being said, Monangai has some potential. The thing is, this draft class is so stacked. There's so many other running backs with juice in their legs that could impact him getting drafted higher than any other year. That's going to affect him. But that's what we're looking at here with the rankings this week. Next week, I'll add a few more players, whatever I can fit in. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Where's your rankings at? Post it down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now. I'm watching you. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.